Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Endless TBR. My name is Christian, and this is my YouTube channel where I like to talk about everything book-related in my life because I love to read. And this is going to be my halfway through July update video. I like to do little bi-weekly reading updates, outlining my TBR for the month, a little halfway point to see how I'm doing, and then a recap for the end of the month to see if I met my goal. So filming this on July 17th, this is going to kind of be my recap or my update as to how I'm doing so far in the month of July. A couple weeks ago, I outlined the books that I wanted to read for this month, and I'm happy to report I'm doing very well. I think I actually might have some space to fit in a couple extra books for this month that I didn't plan on reading because I'm knocking stuff out really, really well. But this is going to be my video. I'm going to get into it and just give a little brief update on how I'm doing and a little mini review of the books that I've read so far. So first book that I read in the month of July, it was my nostalgia pick. I always like to pick one book that I loved as a kid. I'm rereading it as an adult to see if I still love it, see if it holds up as an adult. And that book for me this month was Holes. And boy, oh boy, definitely holds up. I wanted to say it holds up. It holds up very, very well. I absolutely love this book. It is so much fun. The movie is something that's very important to me. Me and my fiance watch it at least on a monthly basis, sometimes 2 times a month. Love the movie. And I will say, as much as I do enjoy this book, I think I like the movie a little bit better. I might be biased, but to me the ending of the movie feels a little more emotionally impactful, whereas the book I feel like wraps up very, very quickly. But if you like the movie and you've never read the book, you should check it out because everything that I love about the movie is in the book. Great cast of characters, a great little adventure, and a lot of fun for people of all ages. Even though it's a book meant for a younger audience, as an adult, I still really appreciated it, and I had a lot of fun. I finished it in one day, so that tells you I sat down and couldn't put it down. Absolutely loved Holes, so that was a delight to go and revisit. The second book I read was also like a middle grade book, and that was Escape from Valo, which is the next book that I had to read in the High Republic. Currently, I'm reading through all of the High Republic, and this is the first book in Phase 3. It is a middle grade novel, and it's by far the biggest one. It's a little over 400 pages, where I think most of the other middle grade novels were about in the 200 to 250 range. So significantly bigger, and I would say this is probably my favorite or second favorite middle grade novel. I like Test of Courage a lot, and this one was a lot of fun. Definitely on the higher end of the middle grade novels of the High Republic. It is basically about this group of young Padawans or younglings that get trapped on the planet Valo after the Nile take it over, and they have to fight back against the Nile forces and team up and get into all kinds of crazy mischief. And it's just a lot of fun. Like I've always said with the middle grade novels, they're not really, they're not for me particularly. As a Star Wars fan, they are for me, but, they're for a younger audience. But I think they're a great way for younger audiences to get into Star Wars, and I kind of read them as like a nice little palate cleanser whenever I just want a nice, silly little Star Wars adventure that's easy to read and easy to get through. So I always enjoy visiting the middle grade novels, but I would say this one is a good amount of fun. And if you're someone that's reading the High Republic and you're kind of like, maybe do I want to read the middle grade novels or not? Maybe you're an adult like me. I'd say definitely still check this one out because it's a fun, good old Star Wars adventure, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. The next book I read, or finished, I started it in June, but I read the bulk of it in July, so I'm counting it towards July. This is a book I've been working on for a while. I said I was going to read it in my May TBR, didn't get around to it, said I was going to read it for my June TBR, did start reading it, but I found that I was enjoying this book, reading it slower than others and taking breaks. And that book is The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. This is the second in the original Mistborn trilogy and the second book by Brandon Sanderson that I've ever read. And boy, oh boy, is this book awesome. I did a ranking of all of the books that I read at the beginning of 2024 last week, and the first Mistborn book was absolutely at my #1 spot. I adored that book and thought it was incredible. So I was a little worried going into this one. I was like, is it going to have that that middle book syndrome, like how it kind of sags in the middle. And I will say that this book is certainly a lot slower paced than the first Mistborn book. The first Mistborn book is like, it's like a cannon, man. It's nonstop, like introducing the world and the characters and the lore and the very unique magic system based around ingesting metals. But this book slows down a lot. It is much more character focused, especially on Vin and Elend and their relationship. But it definitely, I would not say it falls into that middle book syndrome at all. Like, even though it was slower paced, I thought it was thrilling, and the additions to the story were amazing, and the last 100 pages set up so many cool things for the third book. I'm very excited to get into that one. So, super excited that I read this one. I am glad I took my time with it, because there is a lot to digest here, and I didn't want to feel like I was rushing through it. So, even though it took me a little longer than normal, very glad that I did what I did, and I love this book. I can't say I liked it more than the first one. I think I still like the first one more, but it's a very close second. Like, at the end of the year when I do my rankings, this one and the first one are probably going to be side by side. So that was the third book that I finished in July. The fourth book that I finished in July was this one, A Court of Frost and Starlight. This is book 3.5 in the ACOTAR series, and just to catch you up real quick, if you haven't seen my other videos, kind of liked book 1 when I read it, loved books 2 and 3. Books 2 and 3 are very high on my list for the beginning of 2024. And then when I read this one, I was like, okay, like, my fiance told me that it was very much a filler book, kind of just like, you know how filler like TV episodes are. So it's kind of like a filler episode of a TV show, and I would say that is a pretty accurate representation of this. My final thoughts on it are, I do not hate this book, but I think it can definitely be skipped, and it probably didn't need to be made. If you're a big fan of ACOTAR and you just want to digest as much ACOTAR content as possible, then, you will probably enjoy reading this story. For those of you who might not be as big of a fan, you can probably just read a quick little notes page on what happens in this book and then be fully satisfied to move on to the next one. I can't say for sure because I haven't read the next one, and I'm not going to spoil anything in this video, but I think what happens in the last few pages is really the main takeaway from this book. So, like I said, I gave this a 3 out of 5, like right at the good category. I did not hate it. I didn't love it. Do I regret reading it? No, I'm just kind of meh on it. A filler episode of a TV show is definitely how I would describe this book. So, but I did it, and now I'm moving on to the final ACOTAR book next month. So excited for that. I am enjoying the series quite a bit, even though the first one has fallen down in the rankings quite a bit for me. And then the book I finished the most recently was one that I've been wanting to read for a very long time. It was on my shelf, and then a trailer came out for they're making it into a movie, and it finally kind of gave me the jump start, like, hey, you need to read this book before the movie comes out. And that is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Right off the bat, easily one of my favorite books that I've read this year. I was worried at first that when it comes to like science speak and jargon and stuff like that, a lot of it goes right over my head. I did not do good in science or math in school, so kind of starting it off, and some of the, the word choice in this is very science heavy, and I was like, oh gosh, like, is this gonna be like wah, 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 in my ear for the next 8 to 10 hours or however long it takes me to read the book? But I'm very happy to say that not at all. I mean, if you understand science stuff, you'll probably get a little bit more out of it, but as someone who's completely stupid when it comes to all things science related, I don't feel like I missed anything, because this book is really all about character and about character interactions. And the interactions between the main character and another character named Rocky, who is my absolute favorite character in anything for a very long time, was wonderful. It was funny, it was heartwarming, it was heartbreaking, it was everything that I wanted. And so such great characters, and I'm very, very excited for the movie. And if you're worried about it being too sciencey to enjoy, I would say don't think that way. Absolutely give it a shot. I breezed through this book because I didn't want to put it down, and it was a lot of fun. And if I had to take a guess, I think this is definitely going to end up in my top 10 of the year. Wonderful, wonderful book. And I wish I'd read it sooner because it's been on my shelf for a while, but I wanted to finish it before the movie came out. So the other book that I have not read yet. Well, actually, before I get to that, I'm jumping ahead of myself. Let me get to what I'm currently reading. So currently I'm reading from last video when I outlined my TBR. I have Joe Hill's 20th Century Ghosts. This is Stephen King's son, and I've read one other book by him a while ago. It was called Nosferatu. I thought it was very good. So this is my second book. This is a collection of short stories. This is my second book that I've read by Joe Hill, and oh, I am loving this short story collection so far. Specifically, there's one story called Pop Art that follows, it's basically a boy and his friend, but one of his friends is like an inflatable toy type thing, but he's like real, but he's inflatable, and so he almost dies all the time, and it's just a very weird but very actually like weirdly endearing story. So I enjoyed that a lot. And then, of course, The Black Phone is in here, which is what the Ethan Hawke movie is based on. And that short story was awesome, too. I'm like right at the halfway mark. If you can see my bookmark there, right at the halfway mark, enjoying this a lot. However, the other day, I went to Books A Million and I picked up a book that was not on my TBR list, but I'm currently reading it before I finished 20th Century Ghosts. I've been chipping away at this one because I've fallen in love with it. And that book is How Do Androids Dream of Electric Sleep by Philip K. Dick. This is the book that the movies Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049 are based off of. I have never read a Philip K. Dick book before, but I'd heard his name and I knew he did Man in the High Castle, so I really wanted to check it out. The reason I picked this book up and started reading it instantly was I saw the Project Hail Mary trailer, saw Ryan Gosling, had Ryan Gosling on the brain, and then I was like, I want to watch Blade Runner 2049 again, because that is one of my all-time favorite movies. I watched it, loved it again. I've seen that movie probably 100 times at this point, and then I decided, I was like, you know what, I want to see if there's any Blade Runner tie-in novels, because I'd love to read them. And then I found out that Blade Runner was based on a book. I had no idea, so immediately the next day I went out and picked this up. I say the other day, it was yesterday. I don't know why I'm acting like this was a while ago. Sometimes the days get mixed up in my head. Yesterday, I went to Books A Million and I bought this. I'm about 2/3 of the way. Literally before I hit record on this camera, I was chipping away at this book. So I'm probably going to finish this one and then do the second half of 20th Century Ghosts. But loving this book so much. Like, I don't know if it's just because I'm a Blade Runner fan. It probably is, but what an awesome piece of science fiction this is. And it's making me really want to go pick up more Philip K. Dick and just read his whole collection, because I've heard that he has some awesome stuff. I've watched a couple videos on him just in the last few hours because I'm like, I want to know more about this guy and the other things that he's read. So super pumped for this. Not originally on my TBR, but super excited to be reading it. And then that leaves the one book that was on my TBR list that I haven't started yet. That is The Silmarillion by J.R.R. Tolkien. Haven't started it yet, so I don't have anything to say, but I'm very excited. I'm a little nervous to jump into it because I've heard it's dense. This is my friend's book. He lent it to me, and I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna blast through it. And he's like, no, take your time because there's a lot to do in here. So I'm like, I'm a little nervous, but I'm giving myself like a good back third of the month to chip away at it. So very excited for that. Last thing I'll talk about, and then I'll go, is I decided, me and my fiance and one of our best friends decided to make a little book club. So that's exciting. I've never been part of a book club before, but every month we're going to rotate. Each of us is going to pick a book that the three of us have to read. So we let our friend go first, and she picked a book called Mary by Nat or Nate Cassidy. I'm not sure. I think it's Nat. But Mary by Nat Cassidy. I don't have the book yet. I need to order it, but I'll put a little picture of it somewhere on the screen over here. But that is also going to be on my TBR for July now. I got to knock that book out because at the end of the month, whoever picks the book is going to make dinner, and the three of us are all going to sit around and we're going to talk about the book. So very, very excited to be part of that. I've never been a part of a book club or anything close to a book club before, so I'm stoked. I'm happy. And the next month I get to pick a book. So I've been thinking about what I'm going to make my fiance and friend read. I'll be honest with you, I think I might have them read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, but I also have been bothering my fiance to read Mistborn for months now, and so I might take advantage of this opportunity to do Mistborn as the book, but that's a pretty big book, so I'm deciding if I want to take mercy on her or not. She's probably watching this smacking her head, but yeah, so very excited for that. So as you saw, I'm doing really, really well with my TBR, adding the Blade Runner book and then the Mary by Nat Cassidy in there, so hopefully I'll surpass my TBR by an extra 2 books, and I might even get started on one of the books that I want to read for August if things go very, very well. But thank you guys so much for watching. That's the end of this video. Stay tuned for more videos. I am working on a ranking of all the books that I read in 2024 video that I'm very stoked for. And then I'm also thinking about doing like a top 10 books of all time, at least at this point in my reading journey. I want to see, like, I want to make one now so I can see in a couple years how that list evolves, because I'm sure there's more books I'm going to read that are going to move that list around, but I've never even thought about like what a top 10 book for me would look like. So I think I might start working on that and bring that as a video, but we'll see. But thank you guys so much for watching. Take it easy. My name is Christian, and I will see you next time. Peace.